What an honor it is to be here. The women in this community are builders, leaders, visionaries, powerful women who carry enormous responsibility and influence every day. The word powerful is usually defined as having great strength, influence, impact, and the ability to overcome resistance and make things happen. Let me ask you something. Are you everybody else's go to person? Donna can do it. Call Tammy, she'll handle it. Give it to Cindy, she'll get it done. How many of you know what it feels like to hold everything together while silently falling apart inside? Or live through moments you never saw coming? A divorce, loss, burnout, caregiving, a child in crisis, the death of someone you loved, and somehow you keep showing up. I think that's especially true for powerful women because somewhere along the way, we learned how to perform through pain instead of process it. When something hurts or life becomes overwhelming, we push through. Many times we are just one text message away from losing it. Does this story sound familiar to you? I did that for a long time, and I did it very well. I'm Helen Connors-Groom, and it is an honor to share my story with you. I grew up in a ranch in Arizona in a family of 10 kids. There wasn't much room for drama. You fell off a horse, you got back on. You scraped your knee, you got a Band-Aid and kept moving. And honestly, that mindset served me well. I thought being powerful meant being able to handle everything. Be that girl we were just talking about. Everybody's go-to gal, the problem solver, and the one everyone depends on. Look, I've won awards, broken world records, but I've also survived setbacks, buried people I loved, pushed through one crisis after another, and often got called in to solve other people's shit shows. But 17 years ago, I was forced to face something that became life changing. No matter how strong you are, being everything to everyone all the time is not sustainable. Eventually, life hands you something so big, you're unable to muscle your way through it alone. You can't outwork it, out tough it, or simply push through. And 17 years ago, during spring break with my sons in Mexico, life handed me that moment. I was about to take my first sip of wine when the 6-story building behind me exploded. I looked up and I saw smoke and debris coming from the top floor. And then I heard my oldest son scream, "My hands!" I flew up those stairs, and when I reached him, I thought he had lost both of them. For one split second, everything inside of me wanted to panic. Instead, just like I had been taught my entire life, I stopped, took a deep breath, and paused. And then I said, "Colby, you're alive, and we are going to get through this together." That was our first pivot. Colby was airlifted to the top burn center in the United States. What most people don't realize is that in a burn center, the lower the room number, the lower the odds of survival. Colby started in room 5. That meant 24-hour a day nursing care. And by that, I mean the nurse sat in his room 24 hours a day, not allowed to leave during her shift. Every few days, when he stabilized, they moved him further down the hallway. First room 6, then room 7, then room 8. Every room felt like hope. I learned something in that hallway. Sometimes progress doesn't look dramatic. Sometimes progress looks like surviving one more day, one more breath, one more room. It was incredible the day we hit 18. But we need to go back and tell you a little bit more about our time at the Burn Center. We stayed there for 6 months, 42 surgeries. How do you tell a 16-year-old his life isn't over when he believes it is? That's when I realized saying just stop it isn't enough. Resilience isn't automatic, but it is teachable. Together, we created what we called the 15-minute pity party. Every morning, Colby got 15 minutes. He could rage, cry, ask why, say every 4-letter word he knew, even cuss at God. But when the timer went off, we did 2 things. First, we rewrote his story, finding at least one thing to be grateful for. Some days it was simply that he was alive. Others, it was that he had only lost part of one hand. Then we would pivot, choose one small step forward, comb his own hair, walk down the hall, and eventually go to the bathroom without needing anybody to help him wipe his butt. Pity, pause, pivot. That became our pattern. And while we created the pity party to help Colby survive, looking back now, I realize it was teaching me too. The pity party may have started out as a survival tool, but it became a way of seeing life differently. It taught me about grace, boundaries, perspective, receiving. The difference between being powerful and carrying everything alone. It gave me something I never really had before, a framework. Because like so many other powerful women, I survived. I knew how to push through, handle crisis, and keep moving. But if you're anything like me, most of the time you are just flying by the seat of your pants. And I did that beautifully. I didn't fully understand why I was able to recover and move forward when so many others stayed stuck until the pity party showed me. It gave me a structure, a language to what I had been instinctively doing my entire life. Pity. Acknowledge the situation. Pause. Rewrite the story with gratitude. Then pivot. Take the next step forward. During the first surgery, surgeons attempted an experimental graft that would give Colby the most natural outcome possible. He made it through 18 hours of surgery, and he got out just before midnight. 6 a.m. the next morning, the nurse called and said, "Everything looks great." 18 minutes later, she called back. "He's going back into surgery. The graft is failing." Another endless surgery. Sitting outside the operating room, I watched surgeons, medical teams come in and out for hours, giving me updates, taking breaks. At one point, they even stopped for lunch. That's when it really hit me just how long they had been fighting to save that graft. It was almost 2 o'clock in the afternoon when the surgeon came out, sat down and said, "We think we might be able to save it. We're going to try one more thing, but we're still not sure." I remember looking at himself and hearing myself say, "Hold on, stop." He just looked at me, and I said, "It's okay. Stop trying." I have heard the chaplain called to the burn center 3 times today to give last rites to other patients. Saving lives is far more important than saving that hand. I will never forget the look on his face. Pure relief, gratitude, exhaustion. Because in that moment, the most powerful person there, the surgeon, no longer had to carry the weight of that decision alone. I think that's one of the greatest gifts the pity party taught me. Sometimes real power is not controlling the outcome. It's finding grace and perspective and giving someone else permission to stop carrying the burden alone. Another lesson the pity party taught me during Colby's hospital stay was how to receive. As someone who had spent her entire life being the one everybody depended on, learning to let someone else carry part of that weight was not easy. The truth is, most powerful women, like us, don't ask for help. We keep carrying it, keep pushing through, keep telling everybody, I'm fine. But one of my closest friends, Murphy, never gave me the chance to do that. Every night between 5:30 and 6, she would show up at the hospital and send me home to be with my younger son, Graham. She would then stay with Colby until he fell asleep. Every single night for 6 months. Hindsight being 2020, Murphy taught me that powerful women shouldn't carry everything alone. We need each other. We need to show up for each other, support each other. Now, 17 years later, that explosion does not define my son. None of us could change what happened, but we could rewrite the story. Today, Colby, the one on top, is a world record skydiver, contracted by governments worldwide to train elite special forces and international search and rescue teams. Looking back, I realized something else. It's the story we tell ourselves after life explodes that matters. Because that story can either trap us in the pain or help us reclaim our peace, grace, and ultimately our true power. Over the years, I discovered the same principles that helped our family survive the unthinkable were the very same principles used by some of the highest performing teams in the world. Last summer, I stood on the tarmac and watched Colby and 173 other skydivers participate in a world record jump. 174 skydivers, 9 airplanes, 19,000 feet in the air, with oxygen masks traveling at nearly 180 miles an hour, head first. They had less than 60 seconds to build a perfect formation before they ran out of sky. People think moments like that happen because of fearlessness. They don't. They happen because teams learn how to recover quickly. Because behind every world record are thousands of failed attempts, missed grips, bad weather, wrong timing, near misses, repositioning, debriefs, and starting over again. The team that broke the record wasn't the team that never struggled. It was the team that had learned how to reset faster than anyone else. And standing there watching that formation come together, I realized something powerful. The pity party framework isn't just for hospitals, personal crises, or world records. It works in business, corporations, project management teams. When used in athletics, both individuals and teams see their performance levels rise. Because at its core, its framework simply gives us permission to stop spiraling long enough, to think clearly again. In corporate environments, We often do after action reviews after something has already failed. But the pity party gives companies a framework to pause amid the pressure, to be honest about what's happening, what's not working, and what might we do differently. And then what the best step forward could be, without shame or endless replaying of the story in our mind over and over again. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is set a timer on the whining, the blaming, and the spinning out of control, allowing us ourselves to stop reliving the problem and start rebuilding the solution. That's why the pity party pivot resonates so strongly with athletes and high performing teams. Because in sports, one mistake isn't usually the end of the game. If a gymnast falls off the beam, she still has 3 more events. If a wrestler loses his first match, he can still fight back through the bracket. A power lifter misses the first lift, still has 2 more attempts. The best athletes in the world aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who have learned how to recover quickly, how to reset emotionally, analyze what happened, rewrite the story with perspective and gratitude fast, helping them perform better the next time. Life works the same way. Most people don't get taken out by one bad moment. They get taken out by getting stuck in that bad moment. The shame, the blame, replaying that story in their minds over and over. The pity party pivot interrupts that continuous replay. It gives us a framework to feel, pause just long enough to regain perspective, and then pivot forward with intention instead of emotion. Every month, I host virtual pity parties. Now, here's the funny thing: almost no one thinks they need one. In fact, most attendees show up saying, I don't do pity parties. And that's how I know they probably do. Because powerful people rarely fall apart out loud. We push through it, handle it, smile, keep going until one day something finally catches up with us. And what has amazed me the most is this: every time we finally slow down long enough to be honest about what we're carrying, something shifts. We're able to breathe again, laugh again, and realize we're not alone. And somehow, even in the middle of incredibly hard situations, we can begin moving forward again. Not because our problems magically disappeared, but because the moment we stopped replaying the story, we have the power to rewrite it. Before I wrap up, I want to leave you with a few gifts. Because if there's one thing I hope you remember from today, it's this: bad things happen. Sometimes unspeakable things. Life can even explode. But if it does, remember you don't have to stay stuck in the pity party. You can learn to pause, rewrite the story with gratitude, and pivot forward. So, the first gift I want to give you is a complimentary download. It's called the Pity Party Framework. It's a simple step-by-step guide. Look at it the next time life gets loud and you're one text message away from losing it. One breath, a pause, rewrite the story, and take the next step forward. Just scan this QR code on the screen and download it for free. And for those of you who are VIP members, I'm gifting you a copy of my ebook, The Pivot Playbook. It normally sells for $47, but in your VIP package, you will receive a private VIP code link to download it for free. Inside are the exact tools, exercises, and frameworks I use to help people stop spiraling, regain perspective, and move forward again. And finally, As a thank you to the incredible woman behind the top 50 voices of influence, I am also gifting a coupon for a private 90-minute performance under pressure strategy session valued at $1,200 that they can give away to someone in this community. Because sometimes all it takes is one conversation, one reframe to completely change the direction of someone's life. So if this message has resonated with you, I would love to invite you to the next pity party. Scan this QR code here. Join the pity party waitlist to receive your invitation. Don't forget to download today's gifts, and I hope to see you at the next pity party. And the most important thing to remember, sometimes bad things happen, unspeakable things. And while you can't change what happened, using the pity party pivot, we can rewrite our stories. I'm Helen Connors-Groom. I teach businesses, teams, and individuals how to rewrite their story using the pity party pivot.